Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Hescock's back, coming to you for my life science class. We are finishing up chapter 3 today. We've been talking about cell division and differences in cell division and why do we go through the phases of cell division and what happens in each phase of cell division. Your warm-up question there is, what is the difference between cytokinesis in plants and animals? Cytokinesis is division of the cytoplasm. In plant cells, you have a cell plate, plate for plant. And in cells like animal cells, you have a fiber ring. So why is cell division important to reproduction? As you can see, we're getting close to quizzes and tests. There are two types of reproduction. The first one being asexual reproduction. This is the reproduction with one parent. The trick to asexual reproduction, A means not, sexual meaning two cells to reproduce. This is a one-parent reproduction. The new organisms are genetically identical to the parent organism. Whereas the difference then, there's several types of asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction is actually the most common on Earth, although we don't see it because it's mostly single-celled organisms. And the number of single-celled organisms on Earth is so much higher than the number of organisms in any other type of form. You just don't see it. So binary fission is when one cell divides into two. Bi, like bicycle, one and two. Fission means to split. Bi meaning two, so this is one cell going into two. This is by far the most common of any type of organism on Earth, one into two. Yeast, algae, protozoans, and bacteria are going to go through this. You have to have mitosis if you have a nucleus, because mitosis is division of the nucleus. But if you're something like a bacteria, you just copy your DNA and then you split. Budding is a process of a new organism growing completely off of itself from a bud or a bulge. Then eventually, so this is a picture of a yeast. Yeast are kind of interesting. They're multinucleated. They have multiple nuclei, excuse me. And this is the bulge. Now this bulge will just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it will eventually form a new cell wall in here, and then that yeast will actually be a baby yeast up here. Some types of hydras can do this, and some types of plants can go through budding as reproduction too. My grandmother always had plants like this. This plant here is called a spider plant. Each one of these buds can grow into a new spider plant. There's a picture of a hydra and a baby hydra literally growing off the side of it. The other one, regeneration can be reproduction, although it's not usually a standard form of asexual reproduction. I showed a picture of potato there. When I was growing up, my grandpap would cut up a bag of old potatoes and put them in his garden. Each piece of that potato has the potential to grow into a new potato, and therefore you have basically created more potatoes or made them reproduce. Sometimes if you split a starfish directly in half, it can grow into two starfish that are genetically identical, although starfish are usually sexual reproductive. Worms are another one. Earthworms can be split in half by accident, and each piece of that earthworm can regrow the other half, and then basically it can be reproduction. It is not the main form for most things, even like a sponge. If you break a piece off of a sponge, that piece can regenerate into a new organism. Sponges, potatoes, worms, starfish generally reproduce sexually, but they do have this ability passed down through generations. Plants. We used to grow impatiens a lot growing up. If you cut a piece of an impatient off, put it in water, it'll grow roots. You can regrow it again. Match the organism to the type of asexual reproduction. So you've got bacteria. Bacteria are binary fission. The hydra is the example of budding. Planaria is actually a type of worm. Planarians can go through regeneration. You can split the worm. A sponge can be broken apart and then regenerated into two new, so that one goes to regeneration. Yeast, in fact, the picture I showed you for yeast was during budding. And a spider plant cutting could either be regeneration or budding, depending on how you looked at it. Asexual is very, very fast because bacteria can go from 1 to 2, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, 16 to 30, 32 becomes 64, 128, 256. Notice how our numbers are just jumping and jumping and jumping and jumping. Then he comes to 512. Literally, you can have these explosions of bacteria or multicellular organisms in a very quick period of time because of this doubling effect. It's called logarithmic growth. But because you don't have a blending of two parents, such as a mom and a dad, you get those blending of genes. We don't have the random occurrences of new traits from asexual reproduction, and then therefore they tend to stay the same for longer. And it also slows down the evolution of the species. This is a graph here of what logarithmic growth looks like. It's growing in exponential growth. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that takes us to the end of today. I hope you study these several types of asexual reproduction. I did not spend a ton of time on sexual reproduction because it's basically reproduction with two parents, and you're probably much more familiar with that. Make sure you get your reading done and the questions in the Google Classroom. And until next time, I'm Mr. Hescox. Be good, be safe. See you later.